We go straight away to questions. We have quite a few coming in from the audience. So I begin with this one. How do you solve the problem of outgassing from composite? That would lead to loss of vacuum over time?
Well, I can take directly. So we have learned before that our temperature level will be pretty low. So typically hydrocarbons will tend to outgas in the range that's at least somewhere above 200 Kelvin. So we intend to stay always below that temperature range. So hydrocarbons will simply freeze and not being able to move. Even in cases if we go up to ambient temperatures, in worst cases, ultra long dormancy, for instance, then it's still a slow process. And in worst case, you could do even a service on the vacuum. So it's not permanent loss. And at the end, we also can allow a lower quality of vacuum due to the higher heat flux that we can allow to the tank. So altogether makes us more than confident that we have a much better situation compared to passenger car application in the past.
Thank you very much. Going on to the next question now. What does a cryocompressed hydrogen fuel tank look like, asks this questioner, whether it is a thick-walled liquid hydrogen tank?
No, that's basically a type 3 cylinder, means an aluminum liner, thin aluminum liner that's overwrapped with carbon composite. And that, again, is then shielded with a multi-layer vacuum isolation that goes then finally into a vacuum shell, an outer tank made, again, of aluminum. That's what it makes that lightweight. So it's a vacuum-isolated, double-walled vessel. The inner part is carbon fiber reinforced.
Thank you very much. And I have a question that I suppose probably goes to Tobias Brunner. What is your forecast for manufacturability and cost of cryocompressed hydrogen tanks and cryocompressed hydrogen fueling interfaces?
Well, we have very openly shown a first cost forecast. We have gone into quite a lot of details. We have looked into material cost. We have looked into processing cost. We have looked into component cost. Again, we're not starting from zero here. There has been a lot of investigations in the past. And I'd say there are a few big opportunities on the technology. First of all, we have a very, very high density, so we can actually limit the amount of carbon fiber that we use. It is rather 1/5 of the carbon fiber that you would need for a 70 MPa system of the same capacity. Secondly, we have a lot of interesting design to manufacturing, design to cost ideas that would help us to transfer the technology from passenger car application to truck application. One of those is that we can actually allow a much higher heat flux in that system, which would very likely give us the opportunity to prefabricate insulations that we then can apply to that system before we weld the outer vessel automatically and draw a vacuum that can be probably a lower quality vacuum than we would see for a liquid hydrogen storage. So in that sense, we believe we have mass production perspectives here, and we are pretty confident that with such a system, we would be reaching less than 300 euros per kilogram hydrogen usable stored, maybe the target, and I hope that is reachable, and I believe it, that we even come below 250 euros per kilogram stored.
Very much. Next question would be, what is the current technological readiness level of your solution?
Well, I mentioned that a couple of times. We had come to TRL7 at the passenger car level. I think the transfer is simplifying a few things. It's giving us a few more challenges in terms of cyclability. We now need to reach 2,000 cycles, but in general, we stay colder, which allows us to forecast less fatigue. So basically, we are very confident that we can reach any durability target in such a system. So we are not seeing any significant issues.
Not sure to which of you it is destined, but why is your tank Okay, we've just taken a little leap here with our screen. Why is your tank lighter than a CH2 tank when combining a compression and a liquid tank?
Because we have a
Well, it's
significantly higher density. Sorry, Christian, you may answer.
Christian Forstner?
Okay, please, Christian.
yeah, that's the significantly higher density, what leads in the overall system perspective to lower weight. I use less carbon fiber, lower pressure level, and all that together leads to a lower weight. That's rather simple at that point.
Okay.
But that applies for the full system. For a storage, for instance, of 80 kilograms of hydrogen, at the end comparing high pressure 70 megapascal storage, you're always much more heavy. So it's almost 5 times the carbon fiber weight.
Thank you very much. And I have a question here. Conventional liquid hydrogen as a fuel and onboard storage seems to be much further along in decades of proven safety, durably lower cost and complexity compared with cryocompressed, also using compressed liquid hydrogen as a source. Please explain the durability of cryocompressed related to the life of the truck, 1 million kilometers, and safety. What happens if the insulation, vacuum, were to fail, and what's the advantage, cost to OEM and customer? I'm happy to repeat some of those multiple questions if I need to. Would you like to take a stab at beginning, Tobias Brunner?
Yes, sure, I can try. So basically, we have answered the durability question a couple of times. We have a different operating regime here, and we target 2,000 cycles that well transfers, refueling cycles that well transfers to the 1 million kilometers. So we think that is very reachable since we're having less fatigue on the materials when we operate the tank system at really low temperature. What was the next question?
Let me see. Let me try to get it back on screen. Our screen is kind of flipping back and forth. It's had a long day. Could we go to the? Can we no longer get that question up on the screen? The one that we're working on. I fear it's gone, dear Tobias Brunner. Let's move on to our next one. Although I see a lot of overlap here with the question we've already done. So let me go to this one. During refueling, is a communication between the fueling station and the vehicle necessary?
No.
No.
Absolutely not necessary. The only thing we do is we measure a very accurate filling level in the tank, but during refueling, no communication is required, no safety relevant and no other communication. That makes things much easier.
So we have that other question back up now. Sorry about that. There had been a question about the comparison between conventional liquid hydrogen and cryocompressed. And then the questioner went on to say, please explain the durability of cryocompressed related to the life of the truck, 1 million kilometers, and safety. What happens if the insulation, the vacuum, were to fail, and what's the advantage in terms of cost to OEM and customer?
Okay, again, the first part of the question had been answered. Now let's go to the safety point of view. I think we have no disadvantage over liquid hydrogen tanks in terms of safety. Basically, we have a very stiff inner carbon fiber override pressure vessel. So if we have a crash situation, for example, yes, we would see deformation of the outer vessel, but basically we have an extremely stiff inner tank that can hardly deform. So the vacuum would break. Again, here comes the big advantage of the higher heat receptivity. So we basically would have less venting, lower vent rates, because we basically have a higher heat receptivity. So we have a slightly longer time to react, and we wouldn't regard this as a disadvantage at all. So we also see in terms of bonfire, that's true for liquid as well as cryocompressed. There are smart ways to use the venting to even ice the tank and the environment. So we regard a cryogenic hydrogen storage system an extremely safe system in case of bonfire.
Thank you very much. Let me see if our technical team has any other questions for us, because in fact, the one that is up there now is one that we just did, but it's looking like we may be done here with our questions. So, one moment. Now my screen has given up the ghost altogether. I think I'm just going to say to both of you, thank you very, very much for taking us through the advantages of your very impressive innovation, and we really appreciate your being with us, Tobias Brunner and Christian Forstner.
Thank you.
Thanks, Melinda.
Thank you very much.